Daf Kuf Hey Amud Beis. We'll begin Daf Kuf Hey Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom. We learned previously that Rav Nachman Paskin, he said that if someone did not make Kiddush at Friday night, Leil Shabbos, then he makes it the next day. If there's a choice between the kavod of Leil Shabbos and the day of Shabbos, the kavod of the day takes priority. So if a person only has enough, if he only has enough delicacies or special things for one, he has to choose. So therefore he chooses the day over the night. The kavod to be mechabed the day, that takes priority over the night. But if he only has one kais, meaning in the previous case we're saying he has enough for Kiddush for night, he has enough for Kiddush in the daytime, and anything above that, any extra wine or delicacies, if he only has a minimal amount, he saves it for the daytime. But if he only has he only has one kais, so he can only make Kiddush once. He has a choice between the night and the daytime. So he says that he makes Kiddush Friday night. He makes Kiddush on it Friday night. Because as far as Kiddush goes, to be Mekadosh the day, to be Mekadosh the Shabbos, the nighttime takes priority over the daytime. The main Kiddush is at nighttime. So now, if it's so, that Rav Nachman said, if it's correct, that if you didn't make Kiddush at night, you can make it in the daytime. Why doesn't he then save it till the next day? Don't make Kiddush at night. Save it for the next day. And then he can accomplish both. Meaning, because if he only has one cup of wine, if he makes Kiddush at night, he'll make Kiddush at night, he'll drink the wine at night, and then he won't have any wine for Kavod HaYom. Now, if it's true that Rav Nachman said that if you don't make Kiddush at night, you make it the next day, why doesn't he leave the wine for the next day? Make Kiddush the next day. He'll have Kiddush, and he'll also be able to be Mekayim the Kavod HaYom, because the Kavod HaYom is Adif the day over the night. So why not save it to the next day? And therefore he'll be able to Mekayim too. Doesn't that show you, therefore, that you cannot make the Kiddush the next day, the full Kiddush, Mekadosh Shabbos, is only at night, not the next day. Amarle, Rav Nachman Yitzchak answered him, he said, Chaviva Mitzvah B'Shaita. He said, no, you have no raya from there. Really, I'll tell you, like I'm saying, that if you don't make it at night, you could make Kiddush the next day. But why do we say if he only has one cup, he makes it at night? Because Chaviva Mitzvah B'Shaita. To do the mitzvah and its proper time and its right time, that's chaviv, and therefore that takes priority, and therefore he should make the Kiddush at night, even if it's at the expense of the Kavod HaYom. We learn out that the pasuk says, "Oilei Shabbos b'Shabbatai," that the korban of Shabbos were makram Shabbos, even though akrav korbanos involves a malacha and a chil of Shabbos, but if it's the korban of Shabbos, it's Deicha Shabbos. And even what's burnt on the Mizbeach is also Deicha Shabbos. That's also Deicha Shabbos. Now, even though Mikra Din, it does not have to be burnt on that day, it could be burnt at night. So maybe you'll say, well, why burn it on Shabbos, which involves a malacha, save it till after Shabbos, and do it on Motzei Shabbos? No. But we say, Chaviva Mitzvah B'Shaita, that the time is the first time, the Ikar time is during the day. We say you burn it in the daytime, even though by postponing it, you will therefore be able to avoid doing malacha. No, that's the time of the malacha, and therefore we learn out from here the principle that Chaviva Mitzvah B'Shaita. So therefore he said, really the Kiddush, you could make, if you didn't make it at night, you could make the next day. But the time of the Kiddush is at night. We make it at night, even if it's at the expense of the Kavod HaYom, and even if he won't have wine for the next day. Break the Gemara. Do we really apply this principle? I've told you we learn at the Baraisa. Next to the base of Motzei Shabbos, a person comes home to his house on Motzei Shabbos, so he has to make Avdolah. So Mevorach ala yayin, v'lamor, v'labasomim. He makes the bracha Avdolah on the wine, and the more on the ner and the basomim. So as we'll see that this is the shita Beis Shammai, we'll see shortly, there's a sheet of Beis Shammai. So the order that he makes is the yain, the moral besom, and then he says amavdol, and he says that alakais. But if he only has one cup, if he only has kais echad, now, so therefore, this Tana, as we'll see, this Tana holds that you have to bench alakais. He comes home, he has to eat malki, he has to eat the suda, and he has to bench, and he needs a kais. So he needs a kais for Avdol, he needs a kais for benching, but only has one kais. So in this case, this Tana holds, as we'll see, that you have to bench ala kais, and therefore he says we make an exception, and here we allow him to eat before Havdalah. He eats the Suda before Havdalah, and he does the following Seder. Now, so he eats the Suda. He saves the cup till the end of the meal. And therefore he makes it all achvi. He benches on the kais, and then he says the Havdalah. So he combines it together. Now, what do we see? We don't say chaviva mitzvah shaita. We don't say, well, the first mitzvah is, the shaita is Havdalah, make Havdalah, even if it means foregoing the benching ala kais. We don't say that. We say he delays it, and mishal shem kulan, and he combines them all lachav on that one kais. So we see that we don't say it and we don't apply it over here. Amr Lei Rav Nachman Yitzchak said to him, "Ano loy chaviva achachi kam achachimo ano." He says, "I'm not a wise man," meaning I didn't make this up on my own. I didn't say chaviva mitzvah shayit on my own. V'lo yechizon. I'm not a navi. V'lo yechidon. I'm not a das yachid. Elagamarna v'sadrona. I'm a person who learns and chazes and reviews it in front of my rebbeim. And this is how it's paskin in the base medrash. This is the way it's paskin. So what's the pshat? How can we reconcile the two? There's a difference between bringing in the day in, ushering the day in, and then saying departing from the day of Shabbos. When we make Kiddush, we want to show how chaviv it is, and therefore we make Kiddush right away. Therefore we say, if he only has one cup of wine, make it on the Kiddush at night, even though it's at the expense of the Kavod Yom of tomorrow, make the Kiddush right away. But when it comes to Havdalah, then we want to show that being mechaber the day of Shabbos is to show how difficult it is for us to depart from the day. So delaying the Havdalah is not a lack of kavod for the days. Therefore, we delay it and make Havdalah after benching. So Shailan ben Yula Yom Lafukiyah. Now Luya Yom with bringing in the day as far as that's concerned, Kol Kama the Makamedina Lay Odef. What we bring in earlier, that shows us a greater kavod. And therefore, Mechavina and we give it kavod of the Shabbos by making the Kiddush earlier. So therefore, if he only has one cup, he makes it on Friday night. But as far as departing from the day, then machrinali, we delay it. So it doesn't appear to be as a burden. So therefore, the kavod of the day is to delay it, and therefore, if he only has one cup, we therefore say delay it till after benching, and then make the benching and the Havdalah on the one cup. So now, we brought down this brisa that shows what he does. If he only has one cup, the Gemara is not going to analyze this brisa. So Gemara says, Shmami mino meham asnisa tamnei. From this brisa, you can learn out 8 halachas. Shmami no mavdol b'tfilo. We can learn out from here that a person who makes Havdalah, he makes Havdalah Shmona Esrei, nevertheless, or actually Havdalah Kais, nevertheless, he has to, when he comes home, he has to make Havdalah ala Kais. Ushmami no brocha tuna Kais. And we learn out from here that Birchas Hamazon needs a Kais, you have to bench on a Kais of Yain. The Ravid explains that everyone agrees that there's a Maila. But what we learn out from here is that this town of this bride holds it's a chiyuv. Because if it wasn't an absolute necessity, then we wouldn't allow you to eat before Havdalah. From the fact that in this case, when he only has one kais, we allow you to eat first before Havdalah and then bench and make the Havdalah in the one kais, it shows that this Tana holds it's a chiyuv. It's a chiyuv to bench all the kais. So we learn out from here the bracha tuna kais. Taisus is medayik from here that we're talking about this case in the brisa that a person came home. So it's mashma that therefore even a yochid, that the Birchas Hamazon is tuna kois, even if it's a yochid, even if it's a lone individual, even if there isn't a mezumin, you also, it's mashma from this Tana that he holds that it's also tuna kois. Ushmamino kois shel brocha tzorach shir. And you can also learn out from here that the kois shel brocha needs a shir. It has to have a minimum amount, because if it didn't need a minimum amount, then just take the one kois, split it into two, and you'd always have two koises. The fact that there's only one kois, that shows you that you have to have a minimum shear, that you have to have this shear of a minimum shear of raviyah, so you need the minimum shear, so that we can say if he doesn't have two koises, he doesn't have two koises with the minimum shear, this is what he does. So it shows you that there is a minimum shear for a kois. Ushmamino hamavorach tzorach sheyita. And you learn out from here also that you make the bracha, you have to taste from the wine. Because if you didn't have to taste from the wine, you can first make havdalah on the kois, don't taste from it, and then save it for benching. From the fact that we don't say that must mean that, no, if you would make havdalah, you'd have to drink from it. And therefore he wouldn't have a kois for benching. So that's why he combines it. Ushmamino tama pagama. And we learn out from here also that once you taste from the wine, you're poigim it, and it's not therefore suitable anymore to use for another kois shel bracha. Because if it wasn't poigim it, if it didn't disqualify it, then make havdalah on the kois, taste a little bit of it, and then save the rest for benching. Why don't we say that? Must be because once he tasted it, it's pagam, and therefore it's not suitable anymore for benching. Tosfos says, he learns from here that when we say that he only has one kois, it's not one kois with a minimum shear. It has to be a little bit, we're assuming there's a little bit more wine. Not enough for two koises, but there's more than for one. So therefore, theoretically, if there's more than the minimum shear, if we did not say the tam pagamai, that made it a pagam, then make havdalah, drink a little bit, and save the rest for benching. Drink a little bit, drink the minimum amount that's needed, and then save the rest. Elamai, so there's more than the minimum shear. Theoretically, you could do that. Why don't we do that? Because by drinking from it, you're paigim it, and therefore it's not suitable. Ushmamino tom mavdil, and we learn out from here also that even though a person ate before havdalah, he can still make havdalah. And there's a mandam who says that if you eat before havdalah, you no longer make havdalah on the kois. But this Tana must hold not that way, because he holds that you eat the meal, and after the meal you mishal shenachrov, you make the benching with the havdalah. So even though he's eaten, you can still make havdalah. Ushmamino aymeshtei kedushas al kois echad, and we can learn out from here that you can make two kedushas. You're making havdalah, you're benching two different things of kedusha on one kois, and you're allowed to do that. And we don't say over here that ein oisim mitzvahs chavilos, that you don't make it with bundles. Ushmamino beishamai avaliba de Rabbi Yehuda. And you see that our Tana holds that if you have a case where there's only one kois and you have to bench and make havdalah on the same kois, that the order, the Seder HaDvorim, is Rabbi Yehuda's version of Liba Beis Shammai, that benching is first and havdalah is last, and the ner is before the besamim. Rav Meir argues on that, but you see that our Tana holds, like Rabbi Yehuda, that this is the Seder.